So today is Tuesday, July the 14th, I think. I could be wrong on the day. And I figured I'd have my cup of coffee this morning and do my little WIP update because it's been a while. I haven't done a WIP update since the beginning of June for May month, for what I had done in May. So all of June I haven't made a video at all. I've just been really busy. The kids finished up school for the year. I've been working non-stop on my dad's project, cross-stitch project I'm doing for him. I've managed to get 2 full pages of stitching done on that, so I'm really pleased with the progress. So anyway, I figured it was time I'd do a little WIP update, and I'm also going to do Theresa Little Stitcher's tag. So, June month, like I said, was really busy. I had a birthday at the end of June. My birthday was actually the day before Father's Day. My morning coffee. And I didn't really get anything stitch related for my birthday, surprisingly. For my birthday this year, it's really odd, but I asked my husband to get me a coloring book. Can you believe that? There's these adult coloring books. The patterns are really elaborate and the designs are really elaborate. And I had wanted one because they're great stress relievers. They're nice for times when you don't really have the opportunity to stitch. So I wanted the Secret Garden, it's called, by Johanna Basford. I think that's how you pronounce her name. And I couldn't find one because they were out of stock everywhere. And they're actually on back order because they are reprinting them to republish them. I think they're making some changes to them. But I did find a hard copy one in French. So that's it. This is what the book looks like. And the inside, like, there's a large poster of one of the designs. I'm going to fold it all the way. It's a bit awkward the way I'm holding the book, really, isn't it? But they have all of these beautiful designs that are very intricate and very detailed. And it's nice for when you're just sitting down and you're watching a little bit of TV and you want something to do other than your stitching. So I did manage to start a little bit of coloring. The one thing I don't really like about the paper in this book is it's very hard to blend colors. So, because the paper kind of wears underneath your pencil crayons when you use them, and you can't really use markers because the paper is thin enough that the marker actually bleeds through. So anyway, I did get that for my birthday and I loved it. So what else did I want to talk about? So that was my birthday. Father's Day went over really well. I gave my husband the little stitches I had done from Cloud's Factory. He really liked them. The one for the Jaws movie and the one that I did myself, that I created myself for Shaun of the Dead. He loved it. He thought it was great. So I will do a very quick WIP update, and I will do a Theresa Little Stitcher did a tag. So I'm going to do Theresa's tag and answer her questions, and then that'll be it. And then I'm off to go do my laundry and get some stitching done because it is beautiful here today, and I'm probably going to stitch out on the deck for a little while. So without further ado, let's talk about my WIPs. So I was doing a Cloud's Factory design for my nephew. It is the Doctor Who pattern that has all 13 doctors in the TARDIS at the end. I'll try and insert a picture of the last time you saw it. I think I have an updated picture of what it looked like the last time. I think I took a photo. If I did, I'll insert it. But right now, because I haven't worked hardly on this at all, I've been concentrating almost exclusively on my father's project because I'm terrified I'm not going to have it finished in time for his birthday. Terrified. Anyway, this is what I've gotten done. So I've done 4 doctors, and I've just started the hair on the other one here. I'll move my coffee cup out of the way. Shouldn't have my coffee around my WIPS. I think these guys are just too stinking cute. Just look at them. So I just love these cute little designs. I just think this guy's so cute with the little hat, and he's got like a little tie or something. So cute, little vest. So that's where I've gotten with that. It's looking good so far. I'm very pleased with it. I think my nephew's going to like it. I'm doing that for him for Christmas this year. The second WIP that I have that's ongoing is my Record Girls project, and I haven't hardly touched it at all. Like I said, I've been so determined to try and get a couple pages done of the project for my father for his birthday this year, that everything else just kind of fell off the rails. And while I had the momentum to be working on his project and wanting to work on it, I worked on it as much as I could. So I'll insert a picture of where Record Girls was the last time you saw it. And it's still on my Q-snap. So this is where it is now. So I have completely finished page 1, completely done, and I've moved into page 2. So far so good. I really like the colors. They're so vibrant. I think it's turning out really well. So I can't wait to get here because this is where her eyes start, right along here. So yeah, so progress, I've gotten this much of page 2 done, but that's really all the progress. And I filled in, there was a bunch of confetti stitches in her hair that I hadn't completed. There's still one there that I hadn't completed, so I filled those all in, and then I got this section here done. So that's it for Record Girls. The next one is my father's WIP. Drum roll. I'm so pleased with the progress on this. I really am. Seeing as how it was a pick-to-pack design, and I really didn't know how it was going to turn out, and was nervous about it, but I'll insert a picture of where you saw it last. Which would have been my progress as of the end of May. And this, I took it off the frame so I could get a good picture of it. This is it now. So I've completed a whole section of the shoreline with the rocks, and I've completed about half of the, or a little better than half of the top of the wheelhouse of the boat. And you can even see, like if you hold it back, like you can even see the antenna that comes up through here from the top of the wheelhouse, which I think is amazing considering these pick-to-pack designs are full coverage and they don't have any back stitching. So some of these stitches here for the antenna are literally a single stitch. So if I had missed one, it wouldn't look right. So the fact that these designs have a lot of confetti, there's a reason for the confetti, because I really think the confetti is what brings out the colors in the design, is what brings it to life, because they don't have any back stitching. So yeah, I'm really pleased with how that's turning out. So it's exciting. Now, that is my WIPs. I haven't done anything else. Like I said, I've been mostly just working on that design for my father. I've been really enjoying working on it. I'm loving seeing it come to life. So I'm hoping now that I can get more progress done on that this month. I want to get another page done. I might not get a page done this month because we're already halfway through the month. But I'm going to finish working on my Record Girls now on the next couple of days. and then I'll switch back to Dad's project. I just need a little break from the boat for a while. So let's see, what else do I have to talk about? I don't really have a haul per se. I did pick up a couple items. As you guys know, I mentioned it before, I'm going to do a Monopoly board. That's going to be the project that I'm going to start after I finish my father's project. So when I get Dad's project done, the next thing I'm going to start is my Monopoly board. And I'm really excited to do that. I finally finished charting the board with the help of a few wonderful ladies from Flosstube who sent me a copy of the pattern, the original pattern. So I finished charting it because I had started charting one of my own so that it would be the right size, like the proper dimensions to fit my coffee table that I have in my rec room, my big huge coffee table. So I needed a piece of fabric that was larger than 2 feet by 2 feet because I wanted the finished piece to be 2 feet by 2 feet, like 24 by 24 inches. And I looked online, and I also wanted a green piece of fabric because Monopoly boards are green. So I looked online, and the fabric that I found was kind of expensive. And then I thought about, well, why don't I just buy a piece of fabric myself and, heaven forbid, dye it, which I have never done. But there's a first time for everything. So, my little haul from Michael's, because I had coupons for this stuff. I got some Aida, and it is big enough. It's actually 29 and a half by 36 inches. So 29 and a half by 36 inches. So this is a good size for me to do the Monopoly board on. I couldn't get it in green, so I purchased, it's not white, it's, I think it's ivory. Off-white. It's almost like a creamy kind of color. So I got that. And then I purchased dye. We're going to see what happens. This dye, this Kelly green, is actually a little too dark. So I got some yellow to mix them together to come up with a lighter green. I was thinking of ice dyeing, but then I was afraid that there would be sections of the cloth that would be too dark of a green. Like the ice would make it, like, you know, because the dye is not diluted, so it only gets diluted by the ice. So I'm thinking that some sections of the cloth would then be too dark of a green and I wouldn't like it for the Monopoly board. It would be perfectly fine probably for something else. So I think instead of doing the ice dyeing method, I'm actually going to use this dye as it calls for. Like I'm actually going to dilute it in water and submerge the fabric and let it fully dye and then rinse it out. Because when you do it that way, when you follow the instructions, the color's pretty color fast as well. Because you can dye clothing with this and wash it out and the dye doesn't run or bleed or anything like that. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a little bit of this and a little bit of the yellow to get a very pale green. And then I'm going to test dye a small piece of Aida that I have. Because I am going to use Aida. I'm not going to use even weave or something for it. I am going to use Aida because it's a little bit heavier of a cloth. And I think it'll be easier to work with, to mount it underneath glass for the coffee table. So yeah, so anyway, I'm going to dye it, dye a test piece of fabric, see how that turns out, and then I'm going to give this a go and see how I make out. So that was a little bit of a haul. I will, I'll be sure to post some pictures on Stitch Mania to let you know how the fabric turns out when I get the courage to do it. The other thing I bought was, I bought a piece of even weave. It says Lugana, I guess, whatever. Even weave Lugana, 28 count, in the color This is in the color tea dyed. I want to see glare there on the package. I bought this for, the Halloween sale. I don't think it's called a Halloween sale though. It's called Queen of the Ravens or something like that. It's on Stitch Mania Facebook group. And basically it's, you can stitch, a lot of people are going to be stitching this Queen of the Ravens, I think it's called, pattern. But if you don't want to stitch that, you can stitch something else that's Halloween-y sort of related. So I had two designs that I had picked. One was my arsenic and old lace pattern because I love that. And the other one is an Edgar Allan Poe sampler. I'm still not sure which one I'm going to do, but either one of them will be good on this piece of fabric. So that's what I bought that for. And that's it for my haul. So I don't have anything else for a haul. That's it. My WIPs are all updated. Theresa, Little Stitcher. I saw your video and I watched your tag and I loved it. I'll answer your questions. And yeah, so if you see me looking down, it's because I've got them written down here. So, question number 1 was, do seasons affect your stitching? Like, do you stitch less in summer or anything like that? No, not really. Seasons don't tend to affect my stitching. I either have my stitchy bug or I don't. When I don't, I usually switch to something else and then I very quickly get it back. But seasons don't really affect my stitching. It probably affects the amount of time I stitch, but it doesn't affect my desire to stitch. I do tend to stitch outside in the summertime. I will stitch outside on my deck. We have a large deck out back with, you know, chairs and all that. I will actually take my my floor stand outside and stick it right on the deck and go ahead and stitch. So yeah, I'll stitch outside, inside, I don't really care. Do I prefer a lap stand, a floor stand, or holding it in my hand? I prefer my floor stand. Love my floor stand, absolutely love my floor stand. My husband made it for me a few years ago. It's completely adjustable. I love to two-hand stitch, and that is my saving grace. I love it. However, I do stitch at work late at night on night shifts, and I can't very well take that with me. And I do like Q-snaps, but I will stitch in hand at work. I'll take like a hoop or a Q-snap and stitch at work. Which leads to the next question. Do you prefer a hoop, a Q-snap, a frame? I prefer Q-snaps. I have them in multiple sizes. That's a lot. I had a scroll frame years ago, like maybe 15 years ago. I didn't like it. I really didn't like it. I didn't like the tension on it at all. I just couldn't get the fabric. Like, I like my fabric nice and taut, and I didn't like it. And maybe it's because I didn't have a stand either at that time, and I found the frame very awkward and cumbersome to hold on to or stitch with. I just hated it. I hated everything about it. The Q-snaps I find are lightweight. I can hold them in my hand or I can use my stand. They're portable. I love them. So I almost exclusively use Q-snaps, except for the items that I take back and forth to work the stitch, like my Clouds Factory stuff. I still use a little, hoop. I don't like the ones with the springs in them, but I do like these with the screw on them. And I prefer the plastic ones to the wooden ones, although, as you can see, I do have little wooden ones that I keep for my Clouds Factory stuff that I take to work. So yeah. Do you use a stitching light? Yes, I do. I don't think I've mentioned this in probably any of my videos. I have very bad eyesight. I was born that way, and I will always have very bad eyesight. I had surgery done on my eyes 16, no, that's a lie, 18 years ago, I had surgery done on my good eye to improve the vision in my good eye. And the reason I say good eye is because I was actually born blind in one eye. I only have some, I have very minor side vision in my right eye. So that gives my eye muscle something to focus on, so my eyes both track the same and everything, but I have no frontal vision or anything in that eye. So I stitch with one eye. So I need I need a light. Natural daylight, like when I'm outside or if I'm sitting next to my window in my living room in the daytime and it's really sunny, is great. I love that. But as soon as I start to lose that light, I do need to have a lamp to stitch with. And so my stand that my husband built for me, actually, I wonder if I can turn the, no, I can't turn the camera around. I'll show it to you after. He built me a stand, and then I used to stitch, with a floor lamp, and that made me confined to one area, and I didn't like that. I like to be able to move my stand around and either stitch in my living room upstairs or what have you. So I wanted a lamp that I could actually attach to my stand. I couldn't get one that screwed on properly to the stand, so couldn't find one I liked. So I found one I liked, and then he made an attachment so I could attach the lamp to my stand. So I'll try and get a picture of that on my video for you. I think I put it on a previous video ages ago, but I'll try and get a picture. Do you use a magnifier? As bad as my vision is, no, I do not. I haven't had a need to. As long as I've got good lighting, I'm good to go. Because my vision in my good eye, since I had the surgery done, is actually really good. It's almost 20/20. Like I need, I'm supposed to wear glasses when I drive my car to read street signs, kind of thing. But I have really good vision in that eye, so I don't really use a magnifying glass. I do have one because there's one on my stand. But the other thing is I don't really stitch a whole lot on linen or anything like that. So I guess because I don't stitch a lot on linen, or I haven't up to this point, I haven't found the need to need a magnifier. But I do have one in case I do need it. Do I prefer one-handed, two-handed, or using, or both ways of stitching? I prefer two-handed stitching. I prefer to use my frame and two-handed stitch. However, I do one-hand stitch because I stitch at work and I hold a hoop in one hand and use my other hand to stitch. And I'm almost ambidextrous, so like not exclusively. Like I don't write with my left hand, although I can. I prefer my right hand to write, but I will cross stitch with my right hand or my left. It doesn't really matter. I use both. So if I'm holding my hoop and my hand gets tired holding the hoop and stitching just with, this hand through and back, I'll switch my hoop to the other hand and stitch with this hand. It doesn't really bother me. And it's the same thing when I two-handed stitch. I notice that, like everyone says in their videos, you put your dominant hand on your dominant hand is underneath, but I switch depending on where I'm working on my frame. Like if my stitches are closer to the left side of my frame, my left hand is on top, and if my stitches are closer to the right hand of the frame, I think my right hand is on top. So it doesn't really matter to me. I use both. Do you prefer to stitch alone in the quiet or around your family? I stitch anywhere. It varies. If I've had a really long day at work, because I work 12-hour shifts and I want some peace and quiet and I just want to watch some Flosstube videos, I will stitch upstairs in our living room while everyone else is hanging out, doing whatever. It's still, open to the whole family. If the kids come out and get a bite to eat at the kitchen, because we have a very open concept house, then, I have a little chat with them as they're coming and going. But I do stitch in the living room. I also stitch downstairs in our family room. We'll all be watching a movie or hanging out, and I'll stitch there. Watch a documentary with my husband. He's a guitar player, and he builds guitars for a living, and repairs guitars for a living. So a lot of times he'll be tinkering with some guitar or some music related stuff, in his seat, and I'll be stitching in my seat. And so, like Theresa said, her husband likes the RC stuff. My son is right into that, so I knew exactly what you were talking about, Theresa. My husband gets to tinker with his stuff while I'm stitching. It's great. Do I have a preferred fabric, and what is the count? If I'm stitching on Ada, I prefer 18 count. The smaller the better. I really like the neatness of the stitches and how tiny it is. That's my preference, is 18 count. Although I do stitch on 16, like my father's is done on 16 count. My Record Girls is done on 18 count. But I prefer 18. Even weave, I've only just started stitching on even weave, and so far I've stitched on 25 count, no, that's a lot. I've stitched on 28 count even weave. And this one I just bought, this is also 28. So I have to say that's my preferred right now because it's the only size I've used. But because I really like the small Ada, which is 18 count, I think I would really like something smaller, like a 32 or 36. I just haven't had the opportunity to stitch on it yet, because 28 count over 2 threads is the equivalent of 14 count Ada, and although I like 14 count Ada, I find it large. So I think I would prefer something smaller in an even weave. I just haven't had the opportunity to stitch on smaller even weave at the moment. How many times have you lost your stitchy bug since you've been stitching over the years, and how do you get it back? Oh my gosh. So I've been stitching for over 20 years. I've lost my stitchy bug a number of times. I couldn't even tell you how many times I've lost it. And I could lose it for not just months, I could not stitch for an entire year. It's happened. But I'm a very crafty person by nature. I like paper crafts. I scrapbook a lot. I crochet. So when I lose my stitchy bug, I switch to my crochet or my scrapbooking, and even in the even sometimes when I'm only sort of half lost my stitchy bug, I'll stitch at work and I'll do another craft at home until my stitchy bug comes back, and then all I want to do is stitch and nothing else. But I find working on another craft kind of gets me through it, and then I always return to my stitching. Always. I always have. It's just, I'm the type of person that has to have something to do, so I always just go to another, craft of some sort until my stitchy bug comes back. And I can't say I get it back by wanting to work on a new project. Like, starting a new project doesn't make me excited enough to get back to it. It's more, I just get excited again about wanting to work on that piece and getting it finished and getting it completed. Question number 10, which is the last one. Do you travel and stitch? Like stitch on public transport, or is it just a home-based hobby for you only? I do travel and stitch, however not on public transport, because we don't really have readily available public transport here. There are buses, like city buses in the city, but I live outside the city. So I commute every day to work, but I drive my own car. So if we're traveling and on a family vacation, I stitch in the car when my husband drives. I don't get car sick. So I will stitch in the car. I have stitched on planes. I have stitched on buses. I stitch when I go to my parents' house to visit them for a few days. I take my stitching with me and I'll stitch there. I stitch at work in the night times on my night shifts. So I do stitch outside of my house in numerous places. So it's not just an at-home hobby for me. I've made it in such a way, I guess, that my stitching is portable. Theresa, I know you were saying you have trouble, you've only ever learned how to two-hand stitch. To me, one-hand stitching is not harder, it's just more time consuming. Because, of course, you don't have the two hands, so you can't stitch as fast. But I do find something like this, like a lightweight hoop that I can just throw in a bag, or I should say like this. Because this is my Clouds Factory one, that Doctor Who one. So I've got my flosses just put in a little baggie, got my little hoop, my pattern is in there, and my fabric is folded up and that's tucked in there. This zips around and it's small, it's compact. I can just throw that right in my bag and pull it out and use it. I don't have any problems. I just think it takes a little bit of getting used to. So that's it for me. I don't have anything else to talk about. I'm now going to go do my laundry and I'm going to go stitch for a little while. It's supposed to be 24 degrees here today. It's lovely, lovely outside. So I'm going to go sit on my deck for a little bit. I'm going to finish my coffee and take my stitching out there. So I'm going to try and get a picture of my stand with my light so you all can see that. And I hope you're having a great stitchy day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.